health supplements and functional foods, legal developments, ingredient news, education, inspiration, entertainment, insider in the afternoon.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Insider in the Afternoon. I am your host, Todd Runstead, and we have a very special show this week because next week is SupplySide East, and we are going to be in person in the house. It's going to be happening. Education, information, inspiration, gesticulation, maybe entertainment people live in person. I'm so very happy that we're all here. We have very special guests with us this week. Let me introduce you. We have Sandy Almendarez. There she is. She is the Senior Content Director for Informa Markets. That's us. We are us. She is us. We are them. We also have with us Bill Giebler doing his very inaugural appearance here on the show. And Bill is the NBJ Content and Insights Director. Now, that is a great title. I remember at NutriCon a few years back, I ran into someone who was the Chief Innovation Officer, and that at the time was the coolest title I had ever heard. Yeah, and then there's like David Bronner, who's the CEO of Dr. Bronner's, but it's
what is it?
Cosmic Engagement Officer,
That's
right? Yeah. So great title, Bill. Nice work. Then we have Steve O. Myers. He's the content director at Informa Markets and Natural Products Insider. And Steve's also responsible for the theme song. So the theme song that is stuck in your head right now, you can thank Steve for that one. So that's really cool. And one final little note I just want to roll out about Steve is he has me beat in the industry by 5 months. We were both late 90s babies into this baby. And but Steve's got me beat by a hair. Nice work. Hey, so everybody, let's talk a little about the supply side experience. I mean, we've got hundreds of suppliers. I think 4,500 ingredients at last count. You can go to SupplySideEast.com and check out the list of all the exhibiting companies. There's going to be thousands of people, and it's going to be in Jersey, right in Secaucus, right outside of New York City. I mean, come on, let's give a shout out. Who's up? Sandy, what do you got to say?
Yeah, we're super excited to be back. SupplySide East in April's time slot, which is really when it was meant to be. Last year, we had it in August due to pandemic concerns. Now we're back in April. The weather will be much nicer, in my opinion. Really excited to get together, make a few stops into the city with some colleagues and industry friends. It's going to be really great. We're looking at a bigger show than what we had last year. I think maybe people really like the April again. So back in, more people, a lot of new faces. Almost half of the attendees at this point registered are going to be new faces. So it's awesome. We're really expanding, growing the industry, and starting in Secaucus.
I love seeing new people come into the world. You know, it's easy to get sort of like, oh yeah, I know everything. What else haven't I thought of? But there's so many people that are still entering the industry that they're eager for information and they're eager for connections. And Steve, you live on the East Coast. Are the cherry blossoms out yet? I mean, what's happening there?
They are out. It was amazing. Some of the cherry blossoms were the first to bloom of anything in my area down in the DC area. I haven't been in the city, but I'm sure they're gearing up for peak cherry blossom. I don't know they have those there in Secaucus, but you know who will be there blossoming for the first time ever? Law Dog Josh Long. It'll actually be his first SupplySide East.
Really?
Yep.
That's crazy. I was going to say
this year.
Newcomers. This is my second. Last August was my first time there. So if I was a newcomer just last year, I'm excited.
You know,
I don't know about Secaucus, but New York City in April is beautiful. New York City in August can be very hot.
Right.
So I'm excited for.
You know, I grew up in New York, and in August they would call it. Well, there was the dog days of August, but then on the weather they would say ho hoo ha, which is like hazy, hot, and humid. So that was a little brutal. But you know, I just got off the phone with Eric Goldman from Holistic Primary Care, and he's a city rat. And I asked him just like what the vibe is like and what the sort of logistics were like. And he said the vibe is okay. he said people are not wearing masks unless required. He said it when you walk the streets of Midtown, maybe 1 in 4 people are masked. It kind of depends on generations. Like younger people are decidedly not, and the more risk sensitive older people maybe are. Masks are required in subways, not in cabs, but cabbies are wearing them. Not required in restaurants. And generally life is fairly normal, and the vibe is people are doing stuff. Restaurants are full. Life is happening. So that was a nice new updated report on life in the Big Apple. So, I know a lot of people like to head out there at night. There is the What's Up With Supps party is happening. That's on the Jersey side, but you get a nice view of the city. Like Sandy, where's that happening at?
That is at the Nobu Rooftop Bar. It's the same place where it was last year, and it was amazing. There's going to be like a fire breather. Diana Morgan is always coming up with really cool and fun ideas.
Right.
So it's the What's Up Industry Vibe Party. Speaking of vibes. And that's on, I just want to make sure I have the right date here.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Tuesday, from, do you have the time? 4:30 to 10 o'clock p.m.
Right.
So right after the show closes, you go back to your room, you put down your things, and then pop right back up and get on there and go.
Last year there was a push-up contest, so who knows what will happen?
Who knows? Anything could happen.
Anything.
What's cool about that location too is not that you should leave the party. It goes till 10. I didn't know that. Right across the street, if you can catch a ferry into the city, go to dinner after or something like that. It's like $5 to get across the river.
The city never sleeps, so you could stay for the whole party and then
stay for the whole party and then still go out to eat, and then go out dancing and catch a show, and then come back to the show the next day.
Just in time.
Yeah, just in time.
The 10:30 opening of the show in the morning.
That's doable.
I did that one year, and I was a younger man then. I won't be doing that anymore. But yeah, that's the exciting thing. New Jersey is kind of like the capital of the ingredient supply world. Just lots of companies up and down the Jersey Turnpike, and a lot of companies just do day trips there. It's almost like a day at the office, only you go to the Secaucus or the Meadowlands, right? The Meadowlands Convention Center. So, and it's in a nice business park, and there's lots of hotels there and easy access into the city. That's cool. Let's talk about the program, because obviously, like beyond the thousands of people and the hundreds of booths, we also have like pretty nice, just on point education programming there. Sandy, let's talk about that. Let's just start with N-Acetyl Cysteine, and do you want to have a discussion over what we actually should be calling N-Acetyl?
I don't know if we should get into that. I'm curious. Should it be N-Acetyl Cysteine or N-Acetyl L-Cysteine? But we don't have to get into that.
Or just NAC,
or just NAC, or just
NALC.
Now the L stands for that means it's an amino acid. That's the cysteine, and then N-acetyl. It's all chemistry. I only got like a C+ in high school chemistry, but I've been saying it enough. Josh, he said NAC at one point. I was like, it's not NAC.
Maybe it should be NAC. But anyway, back to we can certainly talk about, let me back up and talk about the whole conference program. There's 6 sessions total, which is wonderful. Last year in August, we had 2 sessions, and we got feedback that that's not enough. So here we present to you more. The education is happening right on the show floor. It's booth 643, I believe. Let me just check. Yep, 643. And education is included with your registration. And if you're just too busy or unfortunately unable to come, everything is going to be live streamed into SupplySide Network 365.
Cool.
So it'll be live right then, and then on demand within 24 hours if you miss it live. So we can bring all this content to you. But yes, NAC, of course, is such a large, impactful topic happening a lot in our industry. As we noted earlier, Josh Long will be there, and he's the foremost expert on this and all things regulatory. And he'll be joined by Kevin Bell from Arnold Goldman and Gregory I don't think I've ever said that law
Yeah.
firm out loud.
It's AGG. AGG.
Yeah, AGG. Yes,
Yeah.
thanks.
And they're the law firm for NPA, which
Yes.
did the citizens petition along with CRN to FDA.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's a lot of
And-
letters.
Right?
And Jim Emmy from Now Foods to give the business perspective. And Megan Olson, general counsel for CRN, will also be on that panel. So it's really the people who are the movers and shakers on the legal industry side of things that will be in that session, and led by Josh. It's going to be amazing.
I love that. And all those the youngsters who are going, the industry novices, you too can speak in acronyms. Once you go to SupplySide East and kind of grip and grin with people, oh, you'll get it. So that's good. The other nice thing, and I don't know if we could just jump to it, but there, speaking of the people who are just joining and they're looking for mentors and they're looking for people who can guide them. They're looking for leaders, and there's a component of leadership that's happening at the show. Isn't that right, Sandy?
Yeah, we've got another session that I'm also super excited about. It's leadership during labor disruptions. We all know that labor disruptions has happened a lot across all the markets, but I really wanted to take a look at how it's affecting this specific market and what leaders are doing to help keep their talent or onboard new talent, or making sure that people feel included and that they can come to work as their whole selves. And so we wanted to get perspectives from a few leaders in the industry. We've got Gunny Sodhi. He is the CEO of Ayurveda. He's going to be talking about how he uses Ayurvedic practices within his leadership. So that's going to be really interesting and cool. Amy Summers from Pitch Publicity, she's going to talk about communication. That's kind of her jam. So how can you communicate best as a leader? And then Anand Sarup from CFAM is going to talk about creating a community at your work, at your business, and not trying to frame it as a family, because there's a lot of talk about family, and that is off-putting to a lot of people in the industry now who have, or in any industry, people who are working who have reframed how they think about who they work with. So a community rather than a family focus. I'm really excited for it.
That's really interesting, because Ayurveda, that's a family business, right?
That is a family business.
That's legit family. But it is interesting to think about the people that we work with as far as family goes. It's like, oh, that's my work husband or work wife, or my bro, something like that. I mean, Bill and I back in before times, we would hang out. I would hang out in your office, and we would just have a nice little coffee clutch. That was sort of the nice aspect of in-person work, right?
In-person, yeah. Yeah, we barely worked back then.
Yeah, it was amazing that stuff still managed to get done. I don't know how that worked. But what I really like what SupplySide East does, and I think that it seems like they do it more than at West, but maybe just because it's a little more of an intimate gathering. But there's like happy hours and the pizza, or no, the pies and pints that just happen on the show floor. Like very civilized, very European, to like sit at someone's booth at like 3 p.m. It's like, oh, maybe I'll have a Heineken and a slice, and you could just sit down at their booth and talk, right? Like I love that.
Yeah, we did get feedback from last year's show that we didn't have enough food on the show floor. I think we were like tiptoeing back in. Are people going to feel comfortable eating? You got to take your mask off to eat. How's that going to go? And people are like, no, we need more food. So we're bringing it to you this year. It was funny. Fran Schoenwetter, who's been on this show before, she said she called it food back instead of feedback.
Right. And, so New York City, renowned for having the best pizza and bagels on the planet. Is it the water or is it the sauce?
You're from New York.
Bill, come on.
Bagels don't have sauce, so I think we just settled it.
It must be the water. I think it's
It must be the water.
What about pizza bagels?
Those are things.
Okay, that's a thing.
I see. Yeah, I grew up in Phoenix, so we definitely had pizza bagels.
I don't think it breaks.
They were frozen,
Yeah.
But I remember as a kid, Thomas's English muffins, like after school, and then you'd put the American food product cheese, not really cheese, and then a little marinara sauce, put it in the toaster oven. That counted as pizza. And I was from New York, and I would do that. Oh my God. I didn't have to do that. I could have gone to the pizza slice. Stego pizza. I remember Stego pizza. You could get a whole pie for $5 as a kid, and then like now it's like $5 a slice.
Yeah.
But for those who say inflation has only happened in the last year, not so. So another huge trend that we're going to be talking about at the show is immune health. I mean, immune health is kind of like the new baseline for general health, and we have programming around that, right? Like, so what's going on with that, Sandy? Aren't you leading that discussion?
Again, it's me. Hopefully Bill and Steve can talk here soon too. But yeah, we've got a session on immune health, and we're looking at it from this 365 lens, or how immune health can become a new baseline for general health. It used to be in the pre-pandemic times that a lot of consumers would take, I'm coming down with something, that's when I'll reach for my immune health product. Or like, oh, we're heading into cold and flu season, although you cannot say it's for cold and flu season, but that's when they would turn to their supplements. And as people have reevaluated their health and their immune health, there is a shift to 365, to a more general health, to immunity as part of your multivitamin. So it's like your immune plus energy, or your immune plus women's health, and so we're going to talk about that phenomenon, and how big is that really among consumers? Is this a thing that industry is just really wanting, because that sounds great for us to have our immune products sold all year long? But yeah, it's going to be really great. We've got some research from Spins in that, and also some consumer market research from Marketplace.
That's cool. I was just talking with Sambucol, which is the OG elderberry brand. And they were saying that there's two different kinds of consumers. There's the one who's like, I'm sick, or a family member is sick, and it's like, I need something. And they'll go for like the Sambucol syrup, that you put in. But then he said there's this other consumer that's just sort of a proactive one that just wants immunity to like stay ahead of it. And those shoppers kind of more want the gummies, just like, pop a gummy in the morning, like put it in my bag, something like that. So really interesting stuff just about how the shifting nature of how immunity is driving supplement sales. And then, of course, there's the question is, are we over skewed at this point? Because everybody is releasing an immunity product, so that's, that plays into everyone's calculations, including retailers, when you're looking to stock shelves and looking at your set, like what are the formats? It kind of reminds me of CBD, when there was like this flood of CBD into the market, and how do you organize that? How do you curate your product set? How do you build effective, products? And
I would say from the NBJ perspective, NBJ data perspective, if you're launching immunity products right now, stop it. Maybe let CBD be the example. You missed it. Maybe you're finishing out that line that you started building in 2020, and that's great. But if you're just like, oh, I think we should have an elderberry product, I think you missed it. 2021 right. Immunity was the only condition we tracked that actually had negative growth. Immunity did not continue growing. It grew outrageously, but then it had to back off. And where we're really seeing the conditions that are really growing are stress and mood and sleep, those things that we call the adjacent conditions, and so so immunity, it's build it in, kind of like Sandy was saying, build it into, build it into the daily immunity thing, but immunity itself, it had its moment.
Yeah, right. And so, Bill, you're actually doing a double header on Tuesday. You're part of one thing that is supplement industry trends for 2022 and beyond. That's really cool, with the data queen, Claire Morton Reynolds at NBJ. And then you're following up with that Tuesday from 12:30 to 1:30, which is dietary supplement delivery forms for future growth. So I love how there's that, intonation with both sessions, that you're not just assessing, where have we come to get to this point, but you're able to take that data and your insights and your wisdom, as per what you see on your business card and your title, and project what you see as future trends. Now, that is really juicy information. That's stuff that really people can take back to the office. And
that's what NBJ has been doing for 25 years now, is really looking at not what has sold over the last few years, but how those things are going to sell for the next few years too. And so it's fun. It's the industry crystal ball. It's imperfect, but it's fun. It's like to pull all these different data sources together to paint a picture of what's coming. And then from that, to be able to identify trends. And there's a little redundancy here too, because like delivery formats. Do you see what I did? I almost just called it all gummies. That's, oops, spoiler alert. That's what's happening in delivery format. But delivery formats is one of the key trends, and so as we look at trends, we can't help but talk about delivery formats. And now there's a whole session on it as well.
Yeah. And, in last week's edition of Insider in the Afternoon, in case you missed it, we had a CBD gummy taste-off contest at Expo, and that was a lot of fun. And we're going to follow up in the weeks to come. We have just a regular supplement gummy taste-off contest, as well as a beverage shot taste-off contest too. So good stuff. It really gives people an eye into what the competition is up to, what the state of the market is like. And I love, this is the term that I learned from NBJ, future casting. That sounds so much cooler than forecasting. You guys are so cool there at NBJ.
Why stop at forecasting? Just do the whole future.
Look, I have a 4-head. I have a 5-head. Isn't that what we call it?
I think so, yeah.
Steve, you wouldn't know. Your hair is too damn good.
What happens when you shower?
Hey, so Steve, not to leave you, hanging out dry, but one of the perennial topics in the supply biz, people who come to supply side, they're looking to make business contacts, ingredient contacts, ideation, and then they're looking for someone to make their product for them. Because unless you're Now Foods, Now, which has their own massive facility in the Chicago area, and they do contract manufacturing for 100 other brands, but you're looking for a contract manufacturer, and it's always top of mind in this space. What are the questions that you have? What are the concerns you have about timing, ingredient availability, ability to finish, quality, price? I mean, these are all big things, right? And so this, of course, it makes sense that there's a contract manufacturing session at SupplySide East. What can you tell us about that without giving it all away? Because we want people to show up.
No spoiler alerts. Well, we like to make sense. So yeah, we have contract manufacturing. They sit in a pretty unique spot, right? They have to keep track of the supply chain, the trends. Bill's talking about trends. They have to be on top of everything. And it's okay. Maybe you just need to have a run done. Hey, we need to send a run out and have someone make it for us. So be it. Maybe that's a little simpler. But say emerging brands, and you mentioned people who can't control their own manufacturing, have their own facilities, which is great if you can do it. They need help, and anybody new will need even more help. And so you forge these relationships, and that's really what they are. You think of there being a client and then someone offering a service, but these are really relationships and should be thought of in that way. And so we're going to explore that relationship in general, like what you would explore at any moment in the industry's, continuum. But with this recent pandemic and supply chain issues, and Sandy mentioned some of the labor disruptions that are going to be talked about in the leadership session, contract manufacturing suddenly got a little bit complex. I mean, just like for brands who couldn't get the right color lid for their bottles, and they're known for that color lid, right? Well, contract manufacturers have a ton of different customers who each need different things. And if some of those things are hard to get a hold of, what does that do to the relationship? What is happening? So we're going to explore, without giving it all away, we're going to have a great conversation for an hour about all these things. What happened during the pandemic? Is it still happening? How did you adjust? How are the relationships going? Were you able to service clients, et cetera, et cetera? And we'll have Mark Ledoux from NAI will be there.
Love him.
Speaking of new, we have Gina Benninger from Good Health Manufacturing is going to be on the panel. First time speaker, and we'll hear from a company, an Arizona company, actually, and we'll get to hear a new voice on stage. So we're kind of excited to hear what everyone has to say about what's going on in the world of contract manufacturing.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that, there's all the issues that you normally have, And then you throw in COVID on top of that, like mix that, like just the logistic disruptions, the shipping disruptions, the supply chain disruptions, the rapidly shifting consumer sentiment, and then, it's hard enough to ideate your way to innovative products. But now all this, it's like, oh my God, 3-dimensional chess is going on here now.
And I don't think there's anyone out there, if so, or smaller companies, but that's not using contract manufacturing. I don't know about Now Foods. You use them as an example, but even some of these big companies that have in-house manufacturing, they're outsourcing their soft gels. They're answering. Have we talked about outsourcing? Have we talked about gummies? A lot of that is outsourced, and it's it's the growingest category in delivery formats.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking with some people. The NOCO Hemp Expo was just a couple of weeks ago, and I was just talking about there's the shift. So much of what's happening in the hemp business is either it already happened in supplements or it's about to, like with QR codes, is traceability and transparency, which is legion in the high quality CBD world, not so much in the regular supplements world. I think that's really interesting. But then when you look at the delivery format of CBD, when it started, it was all in oil, in the tincture bottles. And really that's because it was easy, like anyone can extract an oil and put it in a bottle. But now it's going into gummies, which is following supplements. As NBJ reported, 2019 was the first year that non-pill formats overtook the traditional capsules and tablets. And so CBD is going that way. And that's the number one delivery format for CBD now. But the big reason is because contract manufacturers, gummy contract manufacturers, finally decided, okay, there's an opportunity here and we feel more comfortable about the risk. So a lot of them, they were staying out of it because, FDA, risk. And now they're just like, okay, the FDA isn't really, like, they're not doing anything to help, but they're really not doing anything to hurt. And so they're all jumping in. So it's really a contract manufacturer play that has enabled CBD to make this shift to follow the consumer sentiment about the way that they want to take supplements. I mean, I think that's super cool.
Yeah, we just did a survey, and gummies is the number one preferred format. According to the survey, it's the third. We asked consumers what they're taking, and tablets and capsules came out first and second. Gummy was third, but what do you prefer to take? Gummy. Gummy is number one.
Yeah.
It's overtaken powder, so it's now the second largest format under pills, combined pill, all kinds of pills. It's huge. Gummies is second, and it's the second fastest growing. So second biggest category is the second fastest growing. And I'll tell you, the first biggest category is not the fastest growing.
Yeah, these mushroom gummies taste great. I can see the appeal.
Are you supposed to throw it up and catch it? I thought supplements.
I am pretty good at that. All right, wait, hold on.
See, I want one. Now watching you do this, I want one. And I think that's
Don't fall off your chair.
If you were in the office together, you could have had one.
Yeah, he could throw it into my office. I could catch it. It would but I think this is what's going on in the marketplace. We see one person eating a gummy and it's like, oh, I want that.
Yeah, it's easy, Except like I'm the kind of guy who like has 20 supplements and I toss them in my mouth. So I don't particularly like gummies, except for, when you want to have some fun. And oh my God, supplements can be fun. That's so cool. Like that's a shift. Like that wasn't really happening 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, and now you see all these new claims for, play or, sympathy or, whatever, like all these really interesting, definitely not a drug disease claim, but just different ways to market positive nutrition.
I mean, it's interesting, as you say, that supplements are now fun. We just had a story in our last issue, our market overview issue, our biggest issue of the year. It came out last week. And the realization was if pills now are less than half of the market, more than half of the market requires a flavor element. And that was not the majority case for supplements until 2019. And now most supplements need some sort of flavor element.
right? Like a whole nother dimension. So all kinds of great dimensions, great things to talk about. You can have conversations just like the ones we're having here in Secaucus, New Jersey at SupplySide East next week. I am so excited that we're going to be there. We're going to be representing, we're going to be making friends. We're going to be building business relationships. We're going to be finding ingredients for our products. We're going to learn about leadership. And we're going to have a heck of a lot of fun at the What's Up with Supps party. And it's in the shadow of Manhattan, which is open for business. Lots of good things happening. Everyone, parting thoughts. Come on, lightning round. What are you most looking forward at SupplySide East next week? Go.
The steps outside, those iconic steps.
Good.
I don't know. It's my second one. I'm excited just to see a bigger back to normal SupplySide East in the right month.
Steve-O, what do you got?
I'm looking forward to some good pie and to see what crazy things happen at What's Up with Supps. What's Up with Supps.
All right. Well, we will see you all in Secaucus, New Jersey next week. That's great. And then we're going to take spring break here at Insider in the Afternoon just to catch up and prepare for the year ahead. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you live in person next week at SupplySide East. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And of course, Bill, Sandy, Steve, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Wow.
Sustainable material.